Hold the gate. If they make it through. They're warm.
Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're counting down our picks for the Westerosi characters who have completely different voices to their actors. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
You must have your reasoning in plain language.
Number 30, Una Chaplin.
What's your name?
Alyssa.
Your last name?
Want to know what side my family fights on?
You know my family name, you have me at a disadvantage.
That boy lost his foot on your orders.
Did you know Talissa Mega, Robb Stark's primary love interest, is played by the granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin? She was born in Spain but has lived in a plethora of countries on account of her mother's acting career. This means her accent can be pretty hard to place, sounding vaguely international.
Well, my first place of reference was Zoe Saldana and Naitiri, because, you know, I think before the volcano erupts, Varang was very much like Naitiri, and so I studied her, and then...
It also changes depending on where she is and who she's talking to. This makes sense since she's lived in so many countries, plus Spanish is her first language. This is why the accent she uses for Talissa sounds so natural, but at the same time, it's surprisingly not how she usually speaks.
Do you think he's friends with King Joffrey? He's a fisherman's son that grew up near Lannisport. He probably never held a spear before they shoved one in his hands a few months ago.
I have no hatred for the lad.
That should help his foot grow back.
Number 29, Liam Cunningham.
The only way for what? They all died anyway. You told everyone Stannis was the one. You had him believing it, all of them fooled, and you lied.
Originally from Dublin, this actor was celebrated for portraying Davos Seaworth, Stannis Baratheon's right-hand man. The Onion Knight is from the slums of Flea Bottom in King's Landing. To reflect upon his upbringing, they gave him a Geordie accent. Cunningham does a remarkable job at pulling it off, especially since it's such a challenging accent to mimic. In reality, he has a standard Dublin accent.
Me personally, I live 2 hours drive from Westeros and only 45 minutes from Dragonstone. I could nearly commute to the 7 kingdoms. Many is there?
Don't ask me.
Jesus.
Interestingly, Davos is the only character to have a Newcastle accent. Other notable characters from Flea Bottom include Gendry Baratheon and Sir Duncan the Tall. The former sounds English, then the latter has a Western Irish accent. Davos could have picked up the accent smuggling, but it's also likely the other actors just couldn't manage the Geordie accent.
You were wrong. How many died because you were wrong?
Number 28, Daniel Monks.
I know you're petty knight not, nor you, brother. Be gone.
But Sir Erlen took a wound in your father's service. How could you have forgotten him?
House Dondarrion is a relatively minor house from the Stormlands, sworn to the Baratheons. In A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, we're introduced to Manfred Dondarrion, who is pretty rude to Sir Duncan. He has the standard southern accent you'd expect from a lord, but his actor, Daniel Monks, is Australian.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't want to. I was like a very gregarious, outgoing, flamboyant child who would constantly be like, there's footage of me as like a 2-year-old dancing the Little Mermaid soundtrack on repeat. And
classics though.
It was amazing.
You'd never be able to tell if you'd only seen him as Dondarrion. He does a flawless job at sounding English. In the past, he's acted extensively in Shakespearean plays in London, which is likely why his accent sounds so authentic.
The Lord Father took 800 swords into those mountains. We've forgotten men who reaped much more than a wound.
Please, sir, I will not be allowed to challenge unless a knight or a lord will vouch for me.
Number 27, Hannah Murray.
I don't know, I mean, on an individual basis, I just think, like, you know, Dev's amazing, Nick's amazing, Kai is brilliant. And I loved everyone I worked with on Skins, and I think they're really talented people.
When Samwell Tarly heads beyond the wall, he ends up falling for the wildling woman, Gilly, played by Hannah Murray. The character has an overtly northern accent, but in reality, Murray is from Bristol, which is about as far south as you can get. Before Game of Thrones, she was most famous for playing Cassie in Skins.
Cute.
You shouldn't give it away.
I'm not giving it away. I'm giving it to you.
There, she uses nothing but her natural talking voice, given that it's set in Bristol. Gilly doesn't have an accent that's easily placed though, she just sounds vaguely northern, but this makes sense, given she's from such a rural part of the world.
I've seen a couple of episodes, but I'm at university and I don't have a TV. So I really want to sit down and properly watch it all the way through, like rather than just sort of dipping in and out. So I'm gonna get hold of the box sets, hopefully over the summer.
Number 26, Michael McElhatton.
Yeah,
meanest,
he probably is one of the meanest. Well, I don't see him that way. I see him as a, I don't think you can approach him to play him like a baddie. He's a very practical man.
The cunning Roose Bolton is a terrifying, cold and calculating villain, portrayed by Michael McElhatton. The Boltons reside in the Dreadfort, which is even more northern than Winterfell. Despite this, neither he nor his son sounds at all northern.
He ignored my advice at every turn. If he'd been a trifle less arrogant.
Calling himself the Young Wolf. How's that for pomposity?
Instead, they have a relatively neutral English accent, sounding vaguely southern. Still, it's a long way from McElhatton's native tongue, as he's originally from Dublin and has the tone to prove it. The decision to give them such a different manner of speaking reflects the Boltons feeling like outsiders in the north. Either that, or the actors found it too challenging.
Roose is he plays the long game. And you never really know what he's thinking or what he's doing, and I think that's why something like The Red Wedding was such a shock, and in the way it was done.
Number 25, Alfie Allen.
I want you to know you're surrounded.
I know I'm surrounded. I know that because I stood on the battlements and saw I was surrounded.
They don't want you to sleep. They want to sap your spirit before
Thank you, wise, bold man.
As you could guess from his name, Alfie Allen is the brother of the celebrated singer Lily Allen. She even wrote a song Alfie about him years before he landed the role of Theon Greyjoy. If you're familiar with Lily's songs, it'll be easy to guess Alfie's natural accent.
It was good. It was a bit daunting because I didn't really know where to draw on from that sort of from that much pain. But it was an adventure, and it was an exciting adventure, but it was a hard adventure for sure.
He was born in Hammersmith, London, meaning his accent isn't northern in the slightest. Theon, on the other hand, has a clear northern accent. It's uncertain where he's specifically going for, it just sounds vaguely Yorkshire-inspired. It makes sense though, as the character was originally from the Iron Islands, not the north.
Say every iron-born man is worth a dozen from the mainland. Do you think they're right?
Aye.
We die today, brothers. We die bleeding from 100 wounds, with arrows in our necks and spears in our guts.
Number 24, James Cosmo.
I think he'd have done very well. I think he'd have appreciated the history of that place. And yes, he would be very happy to walk up and down these walls and see off the robes. What were they called? The White Walkers and all those
Dangerous.
things.
When we're first introduced to the Night's Watch, Jorah Mormont serves as Lord Commander. He was originally from Bear Island, where he raised his son, Jorah Mormont. It's about as far north as you can get without reaching the wall. To reflect this, they gave him a vaguely Mancunian accent.
No one will talk to your daughters. You have my word. Now, sit down and shut your mouth.
In reality, he's from Dumbarton, a town on the west coast of Scotland, not too far away from Glasgow. So in interviews, he usually speaks in a pleasant West Coast accent. Interestingly, he's familiar with a bunch of renowned actors like Sean Connery and Peter O'Toole.
I read this speech, and it was when Lord Mormont is welcoming, if you like, the new recruits to the Night Watch, and he tells them that they're all a bunch of horrible people and they're robbers and thieves and the lowest of the low.
Number 23, Dean Charles Chapman.
A man comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, you're, Tommen from Game of Thrones." I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I really hate you.
Tommen Baratheon is the delightful younger brother of Joffrey, who has the same accent as every noble raised in King's Landing. He's played by Dean Charles Chapman, who was also in the war movie 1917. There he talks in his regular voice, which has a strong cockney twinge.
I demand that Sir Loris be freed now.
Did I arrest him?
Well, no. But you armed the Faith militant. You gave the High Sparrow an army.
I did.
Chapman was born and raised in Havering, one of London's most eastern areas. It's surprising to hear him talk after only seeing him play Tommen. It would be fun if they had more cockney characters, but we only really hear commoners using the accents, who are usually extras with little screen time.
Really, as an actor, it's kind of beneficial because you sort of just get lost in the scenes. The scenes can last up to like 8 minutes long sometimes. So to be able to stay in character for that amount of time is pretty beneficial.
Number 22, Richard Madden.
Yeah, no, it's Disney and I'm in skin tight, quite thin white trousers, or maybe some people would say leggings. I don't like to use that word.
Not all of the Stark children have Yorkshire accents. Bran and Sansa speak in their usual voices. You'd be forgiven for thinking that Richard Madden, who plays Robb Stark, was actually from Yorkshire. In reality, he's from Elderslie, another settlement on Scotland's west coast, just across the Clyde from James Cosmo's hometown.
If I left you with one of my bannermen, your father would know within a fortnight. My bannerman would receive a raven with a message. Release my son, and you'll be rich beyond your dreams. Refuse, and your house will be destroyed root and stem.
This means he speaks in an unmistakably Glasgow accent, but an easily understandable one. It could just be him neutralizing it for interviews though, as an international audience often struggle to comprehend Glaswegians. This is also probably the explanation for why there are barely any characters with strong Scottish accents.
We've spent a couple of days trying out different... trying out different jockstraps. I feel just so dirty even saying the story.
Number 21, Kit Harington.
There's this person, this whole other person. And you're wrapped up in them. They're wrapped up in you. And you. For a little while, you're more than just you. Oh, I don't know. I'm not a bleeding poet.
Few characters were as beloved as Jon Snow, the heroic Night's Watchman who has one of the most compelling arcs in the series. If you're from the north, you'll instantly be able to tell it's not his native accent. Harington was born in West London, so his natural accent isn't close to Jon Snow's.
I love otters as well, by the way. I think they're the best. I'll take the rhino. You can dodge a rhino. Crocodile is very hard to dodge.
Yeah, because they're good land and sea.
Yeah.
You've obviously been asked this before.
Yeah.
Sean Bean's voice provided the model for how Snow speaks, causing the character to sound Yorkshire-esque. The choice to use Sean Bean's normal voice wasn't planned. It was an impulsive decision made during the first script read-through. So, a lot of the other characters were made to sound Yorkshire for consistency, including Harington. This last-minute choice also explains why his accent improves as the show goes on.
I've been lucky that I haven't wet the bed, Harriet, for a very long time. I was probably a child last time I did it.
Probably
being the key word.
Number 20, Harry Collette.
Coming. What is this then that falls from the skies and shivers my bones?
This is only a late summer snow, my prince.
In House of the Dragon, Jacaerys Velaryon, son of Rhaenyra, is portrayed by Harry Collette. He was born in Havering, the same place Tommen's actor comes from, so he has a fairly similar natural voice. Unlike Tommen though, he had a hard time talking like a noble.
How many times should I spin it? Little ribbon on there.
A green
Gorgeous, yeah, I know, gorgeous.
Oh, I don't know my glasses. Did you have any nicknames growing up? If so, what were they?
It was so tough that he needed professional dialect coaches to get it right. Collette calls himself an Essex boy, so he sounds a lot more working class than his character. He got there in the end though, with Jacaerys not having a hint of East London in his accent.
It pleases me to think that over a century ago our ancestors treated in this very place. The Conqueror and the King in the North.
You at least had the mercy not to threaten me with your dragon.
Number 19, Rory McCann.
Lucy and Aya. You can still smell the burning bodies, and that's where your head is at.
I just want to thank her for...
I'm sure you do.
Rory McCann is hardly the only Scottish actor to be cast on Game of Thrones, as the show has also cast Daniel Portman to play Podrick with a Southern English accent. But the Hound is our focus for this entry, as instead of spewing insults and demanding chickens with his rough English accent, the real bloke is rather soft-spoken.
It's really a dance, but if things go wrong, you get bruised and stuff, so...
Wow.
There was a lot of practice with that.
Yeah.
Good fun, though.
In all, McCann is totally antithetical to his cynical, antisocial character, and he appears to be having a lot of fun while he's around his castmates, rather than, you know, wanting to stomp a hole in all of them.
Someone that's not going to be too big in the boat. A good cook is not prone to seasickness. That would be the perfect woman for me.
Number 18, Dexter Solansel.
Oi!
My lord!
You thief!
Egg is the more adorable of the primary characters in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, portrayed by Dexter Solansel. Egg sounds like every other noble from King's Landing, but he was actually born and raised in Leeds. You're unable to tell from Egg's dialogue though. He doesn't have an especially strong Yorkshire accent, but his usual voice has a clear Leeds twinge to it.
You can't make me go. I'd had enough of that inn.
Listen, I'll have no more insolence from you, boy. I'll throw you over my horse and take you home.
You need to ride all the way to King's Landing.
Fascinatingly, they initially asked him to practice a specific accent, but the showrunners weren't fond of it. Ansel didn't clarify what the original voice was meant to sound like, but we can guess it would have been even more posh than what he ended up using.
They told me to do like an accent. I can't remember what accent it was, but they told me to do it, and then I kept rehearsing like the whole entire script in that accent. Oh, yeah. And then I come into the room one day and they're like, no, we don't want the accent.
Number 17, Gemma Whelan.
Have you ever been to Dorne? A few times. Never stayed long. A boy in every port. A boy, a girl.
When you think of the most cheerful and approachable characters on the show, it's likely Yara Greyjoy doesn't immediately come to mind. However, the actress that plays her, Gemma Whelan, is a comedienne who is about as sweet and bubbly as they come. But it's not just her personality that's different from the Queen of the Iron Islands, as her real-life accent is much more prim and proper.
I was utterly dumbfounded when I came out of the screening. It's just incredible.
So while Yara may be a fiercely committed and tough-as-nails gal, Whelan is really an English rose with a heart of gold.
In the actual scene, it was Alfie working away on me, but in the audition, my mother's watching.
Number 16, Rhys Ifans. Meet Sir Otto Hightower, who has served as the hand to 2 kings.
Daughter, listen to me. We will mourn as we must, but some good may yet come of this.
His commanding voice is unmistakable, powerful, harsh, but also very regal sounding.
They are fathers and brothers and sons, and their wives and children gather now at our gates to weep and curse your name.
It's definitely more on the English side, being somewhat reminiscent of Charles Dance's when he played Tywin Lannister. Perhaps the safest way to describe it would be rather Shakespearean.
When the king speaks, your grace, all hear it.
Some Harry Potter fans may assume that he's Irish because of how he sounded as Luna's father, Xenophilius Lovegood. However, when you take a glance at his name, you can easily assume where he's actually from, Wales.
This morning I wanted to wear a wig because it means you get to spend more time in makeup, you know, chatting and...
The Cymru native is from the south, so he has a very strong Welsh accent when he's not portraying the Hightower patriarch.
You know, off the coast of Britain, off these ships, which kind of gives it a romance as well. Yeah.
Though you might already know about his real voice if you ever saw him in Notting Hill back in the day.
That's right. I am at last going out on a date with the great Janine, and I just want to be sure I've picked the right t-shirt.
Number 15, Christopher Heavue.
They call you King Killer.
I'm sure someone does.
They call me Giant's Bane. Want to know why?
Take a second and look at this guy's name. You probably pronounced it wrong. That's because Christopher Heavue is Norwegian and he studied acting in Russia, and also happens to be fluent in English. Feel bad about your language prowess yet? In interviews, Heavue comes across as just as playful as his character, but his relaxed dialect is much more Scandinavian than his wildling accent.
What will we see in season 6?
Well, it's the same. I think you see new sides of the tournament. It's going to be pretty nice, maybe.
His control over different dialects and languages is certainly impressive, but that's because he's quite simply committed to his craft. It makes him just as easy to adore as his unlucky in love counterparts.
It's been a lot of music behind the scenes,
Yeah.
sitting in these big stupid costumes and playing
man.
guitar and being on the drum.
Number 14, Theo Nates.
I've come to meet my fate and you make a jape of it.
Leonor Valerian shares a noble voice very similar to the rest of his family. His actor, John Macmillan, sounds rather similar to that character, so you may be surprised to see the name mentioned here. However, his younger version, seen earlier in the series, was played by someone who sounds dramatically different when you hear him in interviews.
And well, the thing was, the first actual shooting day, I'd seen like the set and stuff before that, and I'd met a few people.
That's right, the adolescent version of Leonor was played by a Scouser.
I remember him saying to me before we'd done like the second or third take, he was like, Leonor loves war, this is what he's about. So like when you're up there and you're riding around, just enjoy it.
His days at the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts certainly paid off, as we never could have imagined he was hiding that thick accent.
You probably haven't even got to say sorry to him, all right? You could literally bounce out of here whenever you want, man. That's like a win a lottery ticket.
Number 13, Jack Gleeson.
A gold dragon to whoever knocks my fool's hat off.
It can be easy to see Jack Gleeson's face and get filled with rage. Don't pretend you didn't get excited Joffrey got his comeuppance. That's not fair to his actor Jack Gleeson though, who comes across as incredibly sweet, intelligent, and down-to-earth in his interviews.
I'm the King of Ireland. I don't know if you got that memo. I don't think I really relate to anything he does, to be honest.
In addition to not simply yelling everything he says, he sports an Irish accent in real life, unlike Joffrey. As a student of philosophy, he really couldn't come off as more of a polar opposite to bratty Lannister. It's all a testament to his acting skills, and he deserves a lot more credit for it than he gets.
I mean, I suppose I'd like to try and defend him in any way possible, but I'd have a pretty hard job of doing it.
Number 12, Sonoya Mizuno.
Not everyone found the jest funny. Now it seems he's done it again, made a promise and then slipped away.
This information brokering lady who works in the shadows has a very distinct and mysterious accent, which is a little hard to pinpoint. It's a bit reminiscent of Shay from the original Game of Thrones, whose actress, Sibel Kekili, is German. Both characters are from Essos, or the East, so you could perhaps assume that this is what the showrunners were going with here.
When your plots ripen and you install your grandson on the throne, remember, it was me who put him there. I could have killed him as easily as a wasp on fruit.
However, the actress for Massaria, Sonoya Mizuno, is actually British-Japanese, so unsurprisingly, she sounds completely different in real life.
Because my look isn't defined by a particular place or country.
Though she was born in Tokyo, her accent is very English, as that's where she was raised.
It is, I guess, like everywhere else, very different to what it's usually like. The devastation, I think, has been a bit less severe than a lot of other places.
You certainly don't need a network of spies like the White Worm has to recognize how different she sounds out of character.
I remember just feeling completely like, oh my god, I'm in Game of Thrones.
Number 11, Pedro Pascal.
You shouldn't drink before a fight.
You learned this during your years in the fighting pits. I always drink before a fight.
Pedro Pascal was given an interesting challenge when he was cast as Oberyn Martell. He was the first Dornish character to appear on the show, so he had to invent an accent that other characters would later have to imitate. Considering he's of Chilean heritage, many figured his accent was at least similar to his natural dialect, but nope. He was raised in Texas and California, and when he speaks, he comes off about as American as that sounds.
Did you get a chance to say hi to Jennifer backstage?
I didn't get a chance to say hi to her, but I do owe her a thank you.
Yeah, now what is the story
She kept
here?
me from getting kicked out of a U2 concert.
His natural charm and charisma translated perfectly to his character, which made his final moments among the series' most brutal.
You're not going to drop an accent on me now, are you?
No, I'm using one now.
Number 10, Graham McTavish.
I recognize no authority but the king's. And until there is one, I have no place here.
With a name like McTavish, you'd instantly assume that Graham is Scottish, and you'd be right. He sounds Scottish in Outlander, he even sounds Scottish when he plays the noble knight Sir Harold Westerling in House of the Dragon. Everything adds up, right? Wrong. In interviews, McTavish sounds far more English.
But the whole fandom thing, I love it. I really do. I love the fact that these shows, these stories are already beloved.
Could this be because of his Shakespearean acting work? Or perhaps it's because he's lived in many different countries over the years, including Canada and New Zealand.
Mary B.
Yes.
Did either of you pick up any cool or unique souvenirs during your Clanlands adventures in New Zealand and Scotland? A stone, sea glass, or a shark tooth, maybe?
It's hard to pinpoint the reason, but McTavish can effortlessly slip back into his native accent whenever the need arises. And he's always an absolute badass.
I'm going to deliver some of your standard corporate jargon to prove that everything sounds sexier with a Scottish accent. I want you to think outside the box.
Number 9. Jerome Flynn.
Oh, you broke my nose!
I did not break your nose.
How do you know?
Because I've been breaking noses since I was your size, and I know what it sounds like.
How would you feel if Bronn read you a bedtime story? Something about that feels kind of off, right? Surprisingly enough, Jerome Flynn has a background in mindfulness and meditation.
I think that was one of the most inspiring things, is because a lot of the people working for World Vision over there are from their own country or from Africa or have been through the rehabilitation process. And
he narrates stories with the intent of evoking feelings of calmness and serenity. It's a far cry from the gruff and hardened rhetoric of the sellsword he plays. He also has a very subtle accent change from his native upper-class English accent to a more Northern English accent. This change might be hard to notice for those outside of the UK, but to us Brits, it's a big leap.
Why?
why would I win? I think he's a bit too wily. He'd be able to wind him up, I think.
Number 8, Ewan Mitchell and Tom Glencarny. They're a couple of naughty little blighters, those Targaryen boys, but their voices certainly carry an air of sophistication. But those posh accents are just a put-on. In the show, King Aegon sounds very aristocratic, perhaps from the south of England, and a bit nasally.
You wouldn't dare.
I have dared. And I find it stimulating.
Arguably quite similar to Matt Smith's voice. His actor, Tom Glencarny, is actually from up north in Salford, part of the Greater Manchester area.
I'm Tom Glencarny and I play Aegon Targaryen.
As such, he's got much more of a Manc accent.
A way of telling someone to go away or leave can be used to dismiss someone.
Wow.
So, in context, renounce the false king. False king.
Aegon's brother Aemond is a man of much fewer words, so you'd be forgiven for not catching the difference between him and his real-life counterpart, Ewan Mitchell.
Wait! My Lord Strong.
Mitchell similarly is from up north, being from Derby.
I used to go to this pub after class and there was this arcade machine. It was Mortal Kombat 2 and I used to kick ass as Sub-Zero.
You can definitely hear the difference if you listen closely.
Pretty much how I felt landing House of the Dragon. So chuffed, man.
Did you?
Delighted,
Chuffed a bit.
Chuffed a bit.
Number 7, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau.
I promise to fight for the living. I intend to keep that promise.
If you have even a passing knowledge of Danish cinema in the 90s, be honest, we know you do, you would know that Nikolaj Coster-Waldau was a household name in his native Denmark. Naturally, he speaks English as a second language, but you wouldn't know that from his performance as Jaime, since he nails the Southern English dialect.
This was a low-budget movie, so everyone worked on scale, and we all, work under the same conditions. Trailers were tiny, but we were all in this together.
Hearing how naturally and quickly he can switch between the two languages can be both strange and impressive, but he doesn't appear to think it's a big deal. But hey, if he's able to make a sister-screwing attempted child murderer lovable, the accent is probably the lesser acting challenge.
The thing is, Jon Snow is dead, but Jon Stark Targaryen has risen from the dead.
Number 6, Ryan Core.
You forget yourself, Strong. That is the prince.
This is what you teach, Cole. Cruelty to the weaker opponent.
He certainly wasn't around very long, but Sir Harwin Strong won over a lot of the ladies watching before he was unceremoniously burnt to a crisp. The father of Rhaenyra's children, Harwin has a typical heroic knight-sounding voice.
Sleep in front of the commander of the city watch. Terrible lack of respect.
A bit posh, gravelly, charming, and more on the English side. And while his actor Ryan Coe certainly holds some of those traits, his accent is far, far different.
I will say that I love working in Australia because it's sort of a different way of working. We go for 3 to 4 months.
Coe is in fact from Australia, and one sound of his real voice gives it away big time.
I hope there's a lot that they don't expect. You know, I think some of the things in this show kind of become as a surprise. Part of the comedy is in the shock and the changing of feel.
You might be surprised to hear that there were quite a few Aussies disguising their accents back in the days of Game of Thrones, and Coe does an excellent job continuing that legacy. Number 5, Peter Dinklage.
She's a girl who walked into a fire with 3 stones and walked out with 3 dragons. How could she not believe in destiny?
While the portrayer of one Lannister brother calls Denmark home, Peter Dinklage is one of the rare American actors to appear on the show. Though he'd be the first to tell you that he doesn't consider himself to be as clever as Tyrion, he's just as funny.
And people get tattoos with your face on them.
Which is strange because they're getting the Tyrion tattoo. There's a lot of, you should go online and look at all these tattoos. They're beautiful, but they're getting the Tyrion tattoo, but I'm Tyrion, so they're really just getting me.
He has a much more relaxed, off-the-cuff manner of speaking that starkly contrasts Tyrion's careful and planned deliveries. With the series' clear European historical influence, it can come as a major shock that one of the show's biggest characters is about as European as baseball or apple pie.
No, but my grandmother had a big old TV in Fantasy Island. Love Boat and Fantasy Island was like a double feature.
Number 4, Olivia Cooke.
One more word and I'll have you removed from this chamber and sent to the wall.
One of the 2 central figures in House of the Dragon, Alicent has the sort of regal-sounding accent you'd expect of the Queen.
We shall hear Princess Rhaenyra's petition along with those of the other claimants on the morrow. I do beg your pardon, my lords.
Surprise, surprise, just like her sons, she's from up north too, and her real voice is just as lovely as the one she uses in the show.
You know, her backstory isn't really there in the books. A lot of other things were going on. You know, maybe, they didn't have time to write about her.
Olivia Cooke was born and raised in Oldham, in the Greater Manchester area.
What is your favourite on-set moment of season 2? This will be new to me because I barely saw you.
Her accent actually went pretty viral on social media, with people loving the way she pronounced stunning.
I was going to say the same thing.
Spagliato. With Prosecco in it.
Oh, stunning.
Yeah.
According to her, she was a little embarrassed after hearing about this, so it seems she tries to conceal it a bit more these days, but it still becomes much more noticeable with certain words like but.
But I mean, I'm yet to see it. But...
Number 3, Jacob Anderson.
They make the boy sleep with dogs or climb a cliff. They throw him in the water. If he learns to swim, good.
Have you ever wanted to see the leader of the Unsullied sing? Well, you're in luck. Bristol native Jacob Anderson also has a music career by the name of Riley Ritchie, and it's worth checking out. Considering he's the most recurring character to speak with a Valyrian tongue, it feels like a jolt hearing him with his even more charming Cockney accent.
How difficult is it to speak your lines in Valyrian?
It's just, I've got like a little elf that I keep on retainer, and he just sits in my ear and like...
Consistently managing an accent for a made-up language can't be easy, but the capable actor is certainly up to the task. While Game of Thrones may have come to an end, there's no doubt that this is just the first we're going to be hearing of Riley and his trip-hop tunes.
If I see him, I'm going to run. We're just going to run in the opposite direction.
Number 2, Millie Alcock.
Princess, would you in Bitterbridge in 3 days' time?
I would happily row myself back to King's Landing if I brought an end to this ridiculous pageant.
The rightful queen, Rhaenyra Targaryen, also shares that very aristocratic-sounding accent.
Who made these claims to your father?
Her Queen's English isn't far off from the person who portrays her, Emma Darcy, which shouldn't be too surprising since they are from the London area. Young Rhaenyra is a different story though. Millie Alcock is actually from Down Under, and that's more than apparent when you hear her speak.
Hi, I'm Amelia Alcock. I play young Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen in House of the Dragon, and I'm thrilled to recommend one of my favourite shows on HBO Max, Euphoria.
Being from Sydney, she's as Australian as can be, though you never would have guessed that from the earlier episodes of House of the Dragon.
I freaked out in the backyard, and then just kind of came inside and asked if he had a bottle of wine. He did, so I just got drunk.
Number 1, Iain Glen.
Have you done something to offend me?
Many things.
Long ago and long forgiven.
But you did forgive, despite my failures.
Like many men on the show, Jorah Mormont was a battle-hardened badass. Unequivocally devoted to his queen Daenerys, he still managed to be commanding in his moments of vulnerability. Understanding that, it's pretty jarring to hear real-life Iain Glen, who is very soft-spoken with a gentle timbre.
Favorite day on set was definitely a day in a sauna when we were doing the gladiatorial sequence. My little girl was there. You know, she watched the papa work.
Hearing him talk about bringing his daughter to set feels like a world away from this killer of both men and whites. His Scottish accent further separates him from Dany's guardian, but both the fictional and real-life men are just as endearing as one another, if in different ways.
You play the story, you play each beat as it is and leave the audience to kind of make up their own mind.
Which character do you think has the nicest sounding accents, and did we mention them in our ranking? Let us know in those comments below.